To this day.
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 What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Joe the Juggernaut Joyce, Deontay Wilder, and Malik Scott. Get this. Joe Joyce warned that his granite chin has a time limit. Deontay Wilder's trainer, Malik Scott, has applauded Joe Joyce for his toughness and his chin, but warned that those attributes have a time limit, that they may well be discovered if he faces Wilder. Joyce had a fantastic 2022, emerging as a series heavyweight world title contender by putting on a career best performance against Joseph Parker. However, in an interview with IFL, Scott warned that it is a matter of time until his punch resistance deteriorates if he continues to be involved in such brutal fights. He said, quote, "Joe Joyce is known for his toughness and his chin. I don't know how long that's going to last. I know one thing for sure, and that is that it doesn't have a time limit on it. But it does have a time limit on it. That chin definitely has a time limit on it. You even have guys like Joseph Parker, who was having moments in that fight. He was hitting Joe. Brian Jennings was having great moments in that fight. Now is Joe walking through that stuff and coming right back? Absolutely. If you can't hurt Joe Joyce, God be with you. To me, his pressure and his imposing ways are just as dangerous and lethal as Deontay's power is. Deontay's power is very dynamic and skilled. That's how Joe Joyce's presence is. That is his gift. It is his blessing that you cannot train. It is God-given to be that type of way. If he is going to fight Deontay, it should be sometime soon. If he keeps being in these good, entertaining fights, the chin and the stubbornness will wear down. By the time you get to Deontay, you are going to be basically on the menu. That's just what I feel about punch intake. I just believe that it has a time limit, and it's cool and it's cute for fans to say, yay, that guy's tough. Yeah, that guy's got chin, but that will go away. Those are the words of Malik Scott. And let me counterpunch. I can see the logic in what he's saying based on other fighters that were tough. Okay, we can go back to the 90s. Let's go to Julio Cesar Chavez. Chavez was known for granite chin. Chavez was known to take punches. Chavez was known to be down on the cards and get the knockout just because he could take certain shots. Okay? You know, Mildred Taylor, that fight was massive. Mildred Taylor, Philly fighter, just boxed his head off, right? Boxed his heart out. Hit Julio Cesar Chavez with everything that he possibly could. Okay, and he stood there and he took those punches, and that was that. He got his shots off. He was able to prevail. He was able to get in there with guys like Pernell Whitaker, do the same thing. It was a draw, but he took everything that he could, but then an up-and-coming rising star in the 90s, Oscar De La Hoya, the golden boy. By the time he got in there with him, he wasn't the same guy. He wasn't the same guy at all. And I think those fights eventually wore him down. But, excuse me. But I do think at the end of the day, Julio Cesar Chavez, his punch resistance ran out. Okay. And if you look at a lot of his fights, if you go back and you finally look at the Oscar De La Hoya fight. Oscar De La Hoya, I think, is responsible for breaking down that jaw structure, that punch intake, that punch resistance. Okay, because he was by that time a bigger guy, and then he fought Miguel Angel Gonzalez. Then fought Oscar De La Hoya again, which those weren't knockouts, okay? But what it is, he got hit so many times by those guys like that. So when he did come up against guys like Frankie Randall, Frankie Randall was able to put him down. Okay, so, so from Randall then to De La Hoya and those guys like that, he was actually wearing himself down bit by bit. That's the logic of Malik Scott. I could give you many other examples, like Arturo Gotti was like that. He was known for a tough chin, but by the end of his career, he couldn't hardly take punches at all. When he got in there with Baldomir, he was just like, Baldomir was hitting him, and Baldomir was a decent puncher, but he wasn't devastating, right? But that was crazy because he couldn't take those shots no more. He just wasn't there. The punch resistance is not there. Fernando Vargas is the last example I'm going to give you. That guy was known to take shots from very tough fighters. He was in there with very difficult fighters like Winky Wright and Ike Corte. But then at the end of the day, when he got in there with Trinidad is that reason that particular, his chin faded, because he was in there with a puncher that punched harder than his punch resistance. Okay? And that's what Malik Scott's saying. Malik Scott's saying, look, you can take all these shots and you're in there with good punchers, pal. But guess what? Pretty soon, you're going to get in there. All these punches is going to chip away. That jawline is going to chip away with that punch intake. Okay? And when you get to Wilder, you're just going to simply be that guy that can't really take that punching power. But what is Malik Scott saying? Malik Scott's saying, well, hey, it's going to be down the line. You know what I mean? Could that fight be next? Deontay Wilder's looking for an opponent. He just, this is a new interview from IFL TV that he made these statements. So is he saying that's going to be later on, like next year or, early 2025 when Wilder's damn near 40 and he's damn near 40 because they're both 36, 37. Wilder, I think, will be 37 if he's not 37, and Joe Joyce is already 37. Right? So, is he saying that he can take Deontay's punches now? You know what I mean? And if he can, by his own admission, he's also saying, people, God be with him if he can take your punch, because he's going to keep punching you until he punches you out. And that's the truth. So yeah, it's very interesting to hear someone say that, because I never heard anyone come forth and said, look, that chin has a time limit on it. Things start to leave you as you get older. Your body doesn't get stronger as you get older. It doesn't work. You get smarter and you're able to cope with what you still have remaining, but don't get stronger. Unless you were a 3-degree burnout and you're sitting there, not living up to your full potential, like let's say in the 20s, and then in the 30s, you look better and feel better. But then in the 40s, you look better and feel better based on the things that you shouldn't do anymore. That's a totally different situation, because you could have done that same shit in the 20s and more than likely have better results. Okay, but with Joe Joyce, I think, I think it does, because I think he's lived a certain type of life where he's really preserved. But here's the silver lining at the end of the tunnel. Check this. If Joe Joyce, because you don't know him to be a drinker or a smoker or some kind of drug abuser or something like that, I think, he is a guy that, he's been to Shaolin monks and stuff like that, and he's trained with different arts and styles, capoeira, Shaolin Kung Fu. Guys like that meditate. Guys like that really take time and, go off to themselves, and, they don't really eat bad and all that. He's a big boy. I mean, he eats something, but I think Joe Joyce is a guy that, because of the way he lives his life, I think he's able to stretch that, and I think he's able to fight for a very long time, or that's at least what I hope for, because he's a very entertaining fighter. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think about Malik Scott stating that Joe Joyce's chin has a time limit on it. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.